the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast, brought to you by Thankfully GAMSAT. We're here to teach you how to smash the GAMSAT, get into medicine, and become a flippin' great doctor. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nurses Doing GAMSAT. My name's Marie Forfa, I'm one of your hosts, and today I'm doing a solo episode on something that has been coming up quite a lot. It is stress, because Section 2 is really just around the corner and a lot of people are feeling stressed right now. So I thought I would just take some time to talk about exactly what to do if that is you and you're feeling a little bit stressed. So I want to start with talking a little bit about stress. So to me, there are two types of stress. You have good stress and you have bad stress. So the good stress is really when you have something that's maybe stressing you out, but it's boosting your energy, it's boosting your motivation. It helps to kind of sharpen your focus, sharpen your attention. And that's things like, when you're prepping for the GAMSAT, but you have a great structured plan and you know that your plan is kind of going to work. It's still stressful, but it's good stress, right? Or when you start a new job, you've got a new job, but still a little bit stressful. Maybe even when you're competing in a sports competition. So Tom is a power lifter, and I can tell you before his last comp, the man was pretty stressed, but it was good. He was pumped up. He had energy for it. Now the other side is bad stress. And this is when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. So say you're doing GAMSAT prep and you haven't had very good time management and things maybe aren't going your way. Or if you've just been working a bunch of night shifts, for example, without any breaks, you haven't got any recovery in sight, maybe, toxic people, that's all bad stress. And you'll know it's bad stress because you'll have that anxiety feeling, you're feeling irritable, maybe you're not sleeping properly, maybe you're getting headaches or whatever it is. And I like to think about good stress and bad stress with really understanding what's within your control. Because if you imagine you've got a circle and within that circle is everything you can control, and then outside of that circle is everything you can't control, for most people, when they've got bad stress, it's something that's outside of their control that they're stressed over. Because if it's something that's within your control, just do something about it already, right? Don't whinge about it. Don't feel stressed about it. Just change something. That to me is good stress. And so I want to give you some kind of techniques on, if you're feeling that good stress, how to harness it and how to use that to kind of work for you. And then if you're feeling that bad stress, also what to do, because different things are going to have different results. So the first thing we want to start with in terms of good stress is really reframing your mindset, because not all stress is bad. If you've got good stress, the exam is coming up, you've prepped, you're feeling a little bit nervous, some acceptance about that nervousness is good, but also understanding that a challenge isn't necessarily a threat. Instead of focusing in on the negative outcomes, just because it's challenging doesn't mean it's going to go badly. When I was giving birth, was that stressful? Yes, but I knew I was going to have a baby at the end. And I knew I just need to get through the challenge of childbirth so I could finally hug my daughter. And it's the same thing. You know that you're going to be a doctor at the end of this. You just need to get through this god-awful exam. But it's okay. The outcome is worth the challenge. And focusing and reframing your mindset on that is really important. I like to kind of really affirm myself. So people have talk about affirmations, but I like to kind of think about it more like positive self-talk, things like I can do this, or I am capable. Or what I love to do here with reframing is think about something that you've done that's harder. Say if I can do that, I can do this. So if I can give birth, it took me 36 hours in labor. It was not a joke, right? 36 hours giving birth, not the best day of my life. But now, anytime there's something hard that comes up, I'm if I can give birth, I can do that. I'm going for a record when I'm lifting a weight. If I can give birth, I can lift 70 kilos in a deadlift. Like, I can do it. And so everybody's got that hard thing. Not saying that you have given birth or that your birth was 36 hours or whatever, but if you can do one thing, you can do the other. Now, the other thing in terms of reframing and getting into positive mindset with good stress is that you want to really set realistic goals. So sometimes when we look too far in advance, it freaks us all out. But what we can do is control what's right in front of us and focus on the steps that it takes to get that goal rather than just the goal being the one thing we focus on. Because if all you're going is, I got to be a doctor, 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 I would feel stressed about that too. But if we can go, okay, what can I do today to get me one step closer to that, then that enables you to take responsibility and to take one positive action in the right direction. So that to me is like, okay, the essay section's coming up in, let's say, a week. What can I do today to make sure I feel better when I'm walking in? Okay, I'm going to write 2 essays, or I'm going to write 4 essays. I can't control what essay topics are given to me on exam day because that's not in with my sphere of control. But what I can do is practice today so that I'm more prepared then. And that's giving myself a really good way to focus that stressful energy. The next thing you want to think about is looking at challenging yourself and stretching that comfort zone. So if you're not comfortable writing essays and that's not within what you feel like you can control, how do you get better at it so that essays become something that you can control? Now, in a GAMSAT context, that's going to be like, understanding what are the skills that I need to learn to feel good on exam day? And again, just on the theme of essays, because it's coming up, you're going to be going like, do I know how to write a thesis statement? Do I know how to use examples? Or do I have a strategy that if a theme comes up that I'm totally unfamiliar with, that I know how to write on any theme? Because these are all skills that are learnable. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I had a student, and a lot of my students call me after the exam because we know each other and, I've been helping them the whole way through. So they call me and tell me what it's like. Let's just call her Mary. Her name was not Mary. So Mary calls me and is like, oh my God, I just did the GAMSAT. I was like, okay, tell me. So she's walking through each section. And for section number 2, she's like, oh my God, the theme that I got, one of the themes, I didn't even understand what the word meant. And I was like, oh, what was the theme? She goes, meritocracy. Don't even know what it means. I said, okay, well, how do you feel? What was the vibe? Did you write a good essay? What happened? And she said, yeah, I wrote a brilliant essay. I just used the strategy on how to write on any theme. If I don't understand what the theme is, I'm fine. I feel good. And to me, that is harnessing good stress before the exam because she knew what might come up and she prepared for it. So it was still in her sphere of control. She had a strategy for it. So what I would say is go and understand what it is that's stressing you out and create a plan around it. It feels so good. And Mary, not her name, went pretty well. Meritocracy, just because I know I would be thinking this if I was listening to a podcast. Meritocracy, I think of it like, democracy. Everybody has the same, one vote counts for one vote in a democracy. A meritocracy is where if you have more merit, you get more clout or more votes or whatever it is. So just so that, otherwise you'll be like on Google, what the hell does meritocracy mean? Anyway, that would be me. I'm one of those people that when I'm watching a TV show and I'm really into it and then the TV show ends, then I need to go and Google search all of the things to see if it's actually accurate and what happened. I don't know if anyone else, please jump into the Facebook group if that's you so that I don't feel like I'm alone and I go into these deep rabbit holes. But anyway, that's me. Back to the task at hand, stress. What we're going to talk about. Positive stress. Enjoy it. Stay present in what you're doing. That is a great way to harness positive stress and get into that flow state. Have you ever been in that state where you just like, everything's kind of just aligning because it's like you're doing the things and it's working out, You just want to maintain that flow state. So sometimes it's about being in the present moment. And then with good and bad stress, the like foundations always apply. You got to get good bloody rest. If you're not sleeping enough, you're not going to feel good. It's as simple as that. And I like to think about the brain almost like a little, think about in the 1950s when they had like an inbox where you put paper into the inbox, not like an electronic inbox, but like literally a box on your desk, and people would put files in there. And over the whole day, there's lots and lots of files that are going into your inbox. And on your desk, you got like an inbox that's like getting higher and higher and higher. When you're sleeping, I imagine everything's getting filed within your brain and your inbox goes to zero and you can process again. But if you're not resting and recharging, then you got a full inbox. And the next day, another set of papers goes in your inbox and it's just getting higher and higher and higher. That's the way I imagine the importance of rest. So if you're learning and really challenging yourself even more cognitively, then you need more rest. And you need better hydration. You need better food. You just got to get the basics right. You need a better support system of people that love you and understand you. They might not need to know about the GAMSAT. I mean, better if they know about the GAMSAT because they'll understand what you're going through. But just having a community of people, this is why we have the Nurses Doing GAMSAT Facebook group, like just being in a community of people, really, really helpful. Yesterday I did an interview with one of my former bootcamp members. She hasn't been in the bootcamp for like 10 years. So she's been, through her medical training, she's now doing physician's training. And she said when she was sitting the GAMSAT, she didn't want to tell anyone. She was like, I just felt like, I didn't want other people to think that I was better than them. And I didn't tell any, like it was one person at work that knew. And so for her, having that community of people where she could be open and honest but not feel like she was going to get outed at work is like so important to have connection, just like a social structure. Anyway, that's good stress. Bad stress. This is probably where a lot of people are sitting right now. No judgment. My sympathy, like my compassion goes to you because I know it is a stressful period. But what I want you to do is I want you to stop and just identify and almost like acknowledge the stress. Is it fear of failure? Is it time pressure? Is it like exhaustion? Like exhaustion's real at this point. Like, what is it? And just sit and acknowledge it. Feel it in your body. Because sometimes we try so hard to like push it down, it just bubbles up and bursts to the surface. I like to think about, I learned this many years ago, it's called the healing is in the feeling. It's like, imagine you got a bucket and there's like a tap that's just like drip, drip, dripping in the bucket, just one drop at a time, right? When the bucket is, and the water represents feelings, whatever it is, stressful feeling, anxious feeling, whatever, sadness, anger, all the, like we're probably feeling all of those at the same time, real talk, right? When the water is dripping into the bucket, at first, the bucket's empty, so it doesn't matter. Like, big deal, a couple of drops. But over time, if you don't empty the bucket, it's going to get full. And all it takes is one drop and your whole bucket overflows. Not cool. Now, that usually is an explosion of some emotion. So it could be anger, could be sadness. It could be, those psychos that go off with the road rage and it's like, that wasn't that bad. I just forgot to put my indicator on, and then they just lose their shit. It's usually because their bucket has not been emptied for weeks, months, years, decades, and then you're the one drop that accidentally set them off. It's got nothing to do with you. Same thing here. We got to acknowledge what is dripping And how is that coming into your body so that we can feel that emotion and bloody let it go? I like to think about letting go almost like letting go of a pen. When you try and let go of something, you like scrunch your face and the pen doesn't drop and you're like really focused on it and all you're doing is thinking about it, but it doesn't leave your hands. But when you actually let go, it's effortless. That was me dropping pen for those that were listening. I hope that wasn't too loud. But your face isn't scrunched up. You're not thinking about holding the pen. You're thinking about not holding the pen. And so same, just feeling and acknowledging your emotional state and recognizing it and labeling it allows you to let it go way easier. You know, I was sitting next to Tom and I said something the other day and he's like, "Are you picking a fight with me?" And I was like, "No, I'm just feeling really stressed and I think I just need some attention." And in that moment, I recognized and identified that the way I was communicating wasn't okay because of other feelings that had nothing to do with what I was kind of picking a fight with him about. And he was like, "Okay, let's talk about that. Let me give you a cuddle," instead of lashing back at me, which he was in every right to do, I must say. It was totally my fault. But, you know, marry someone that loves you and can identify that in you too, because sometimes your closest, like your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your cousin, your mum, your dad, they're going to identify it first. So instead of you snapping back, like when Tom said, "Are you picking a fight with me?" I could have been like, "Oh, hell yeah, I am." Like, which would not have been me and my fully resourced self, right? But what it allows you to do is stop and take pause and label it and express it. Then what you want to do is reframe those negative thoughts. So the things that come up and start to make the big into small things. So instead of being like, "Oh, I gotta get through this goddamn exam. I hate essays. I hate writing. I shit. I have never been good at writing." Where it's like you're building this wall in front of you. What you want to do is go, okay, one step at a time. What's like one thing that I can do to feel better in this moment? If I'm like, I never go well in anything, then I can go, okay, stop, deep breath. The one thing I can do in this moment is that actually true? Not just is it true, but is it actually true? Like, have you never in your whole entire life ever gone good at anything? That's not true. It's not. It's a big, broad, sweeping statement, and every single person listening to this has gone well in something in their life, so it's possible. So I just want you to break it down, and then I want you to focus on what you can control. You can't control if you're going to get meritocracy as your theme this year, but you can control having the resources and the support to teach you how to have a process for anything that comes up. That is within your control. So actually going and saying, am I stressed about something that's outside of my control right now? And if not, then I'm going to let it go. And if it is within my control, what can I do? What can I do? What I also find works really personally, and like I can almost, even before I've said this, I can hear the moan like, oh, I haven't even said it yet. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God. But like breathing exercises have changed my life, honestly. And before you like groan away, let me explain why. There is a physiological thing that happens in our body when we're in a stress state. So when we are calm and relaxed, we just breathe normally, right? And it's sending signals throughout our body about what state we're in. When we're in a stress state, we tend to do this really short, like not very deep, superficial breathing. And that sends signals throughout our brain that we need to go into this like fight or flight zone. And this is where a lot of people like literally can give themselves a panic attack. So what I have learned are the techniques that if I can't control what's going on in my brain, because let's face it, sometimes we can't control those thoughts and just get like, they're like a steam train that's running away. Then I'm like, okay, what I can control is my actual physical state, so that my physical body I can put into a calmer like spot, and then my thoughts will follow. So the very simple way to do this is to breathe out longer than you breathe in. So when you're really relaxed, just take a deep breath in for like, say, 3 counts, and then out for 6. And do that 10 times. The trick is that we're tricking our like physical body to send signals that we're not in that fight or flight zone, and then that we're going to have more clarity to be able to make better decisions with our thought. That to me is like the biggest hack. If there's nothing else that you take out of today, which there will be plenty because it's pretty awesome, got to say, pat myself on the back. But like, to me, being able to control your physical body to be able to think clearer, if you're like in a state and you've just got like, say it's section 3 and you've just got like 3 questions in a row and you're like, they're totally effed, I have no idea what that is, and you can feel your body going into that cortisol, adrenaline kind of state, just take 10 seconds and breathe. It's going to reprogram your physical so you can think better. And like, your brain needs blood and it needs oxygenated, is that the right word? Oxygen in it. And give it, like, give it as much oxygen as it needs when you need to be thinking, right? So allow yourself to breathe. Now, of course, if you're into meditation, if you're into mindfulness, I absolutely love all those things. I do it live most weeks with my students because, like, I just know sometimes meditating or sometimes doing like a mindfulness practice on your own, it's hard to just sit down and do it. Like, our brains just go a little bit crazy. But when there's someone doing it with you live, it like, you just do it because you're there. And then you feel better afterwards and you go, why did I do that on my own? And it's because we're people and we have all the excuses. I get it. So if you're into that, doing a body scan or doing some sort of meditation or visualization, love a good visualization, great. You're not going to sit in the actual exam and meditate though. I know that, but you are going to breathe. And you're going to do that unconsciously or consciously. So I just say switch it to that conscious mode, out breaths longer than the in breaths. What else do we need to do if you're in bad stress? I mean, sometimes you just got to punch it out. You got to like physically move. I know when I'm in that like really high adrenaline state, one of my old mentors said to me, run up and down the staircase at home like 10 times because you're going to move it through your body, right? It's not going to, you're not just going to stay stuck. I know personally for me, I live in like a little sleepy beachside town. If I don't go for a walk every other day, say I miss like 3 or 4 days of like going for a proper walk outside, I just get edgy. I just feel like me, not good. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. And I get irritable. So sometimes physically moving, like I do a lot of exercise, but sometimes I just got to be outside and physically moving my body or running up and down those steps. Really good to move it out of your body. And then, of course, like I said earlier, we need to incorporate good food, lots of bloody water. None of these energy drinks thinking that's going to perk you up. It will temporarily. It won't in the long run. Water, good food, and a lot of sleep. A lot of sleep and, of course, a support network of people that will be able to help you. So that's my tips. That's what we're going to do. That's a lot there. Are you going to do every single one of these? Probably not, right? It's totally fine. Choose it almost like I've given you a menu of things that you can choose from. Go and start to implement some of these. In fact, I would be like really happy if you could at least go and implement one today to reduce those stress levels, or to use that good stress and harness it towards actually getting to your goals. As always, please jump into the Facebook group, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's exactly the same name as the podcast. And tell us what was helpful about today. What are you doing to manage that stress? And if you have any more requests for episodes just like these, because this is how we got this request today through the Facebook group. If you have any more requests, please let us know in the Facebook group, share, create that community, and just go out and smash the GAMS. I absolutely know you can do it. Thousands of people exactly like you have done it for many, many, many years. And you're special, but you're not so special that you can't do this. Okay? I know someone needs to hear that. If it's not you, it's someone else. But you can absolutely do this. Let's harness that stress and go out and smash the day. Bye for now. We'll see you next week. Hey, I have a cool gift for you just for listening to the Nurses Doing GAMSAT podcast. We do some of our best work in our Facebook group called, you guessed it, Nurses Doing GAMSAT. It's free to join, and every day we're sharing actionable guides, tips and tricks, and really just how to smash the exam and get into medicine. You can join today by searching Nurses Doing GAMSAT on Facebook. Thanks for listening to another episode, and I'll see you next time.